This chart maps out the entire crypto industry, a market valued at over $2 trillion. But isolated from the rest sits a specific reserve, the original 1.1 million Bitcoin. It is a hoard worth roughly $118 billion that has never been spent. That fortune belongs to Satoshi Nakamoto. For 17 years, Bitcoin's creator has remained the most famous anonymous figure in modern history, successfully hiding their identity despite sitting on one of the world's largest personal fortunes. Satoshi's anonymity was built on flawless digital hygiene. They used Tor to scramble their routing, anonymous email services registered in Tokyo to hide their location, and carefully curated their posting times to mask their true physical time zone. Because of this level of operational security, traditional tracking methods are largely ineffective. There's no IP address to trace and no physical server to subpoena. To find Satoshi, we must look past the infrastructure and into the writing itself. Over the years, dozens of candidates have been proposed as the real Satoshi, ranging from unemployed engineers to cryptography students. But every high-profile theory has eventually run aground, debunked by alibis or a lack of technical consistency. This investigation takes a different approach. If a target is a master of digital camouflage, you stop looking for where they are and start analyzing how they think. The goal is to identify a cognitive fingerprint that cannot be easily faked. Satoshi left behind a vast body of text, including the original Bitcoin white paper and hundreds of forum posts. By filtering nearly 2 decades of internet history, we can search for the specific linguistic habits and technical concepts that define Bitcoin's creator. A master of security can mask an IP address, but it is much harder to erase subconscious habits. Across thousands of words, an author's natural rhythm, their specific errors, and their ideological preoccupations inevitably begin to surface. The search begins with the cypherpunks mailing lists of the 1990s, a group of about 34,000 individuals dedicated to using cryptography to protect individual privacy from government overreach. We apply the first major filter, identifying who within this pool was already proposing the specific mechanics of a decentralized cash system years before Bitcoin existed. In 1997, one cypherpunk proposed an electronic cash system that mirrors the Bitcoin white paper almost perfectly. It was designed to be trustless, distributed across independent nodes, and used a specific system called Hashcash to prevent inflation. The author of that 1997 blueprint was a British cryptographer named Adam Back. While inventing the blueprint makes Back a person of interest, it isn't proof on its own. To see if the person who designed the system is the same person who built it, we have to look at their behavior. This timeline tracks forum activity for both men. For over a decade, Adam Back was a prolific poster on cryptography boards, but as Satoshi appears and begins the heavy development of Bitcoin in late 2008, Back's activity plummets to zero. This inverse relationship continues. In 2011, Back reemerges, exactly as Satoshi vanishes from the internet forever. The most striking overlap occurred in 2015. After years of silence, the Satoshi account sent one final email to support a specific technical position. It was the exact same technical position Adam Back was aggressively championing at that moment. The pattern is consistent. As one identity recedes, the other advances. These mirrored entrances and exits suggest 2 digital personas operating on a single timeline. The final filter uses AI-driven stylometry to hunt for grammatical habits that are impossible to fake. We're looking for the subconscious tics, the specific way an author handles punctuation and technical terms. After screening for British spellings, filtering for double spacing, and confusion between its and its, the pool of suspects narrows. When looking for authors who end sentences with also, we are left with 56 candidates. This readout shows a highly specific hyphenation error shared by both Satoshi and Adam Back. Both hyphenated the compound noun proof of work, even though the original academic papers they cited did not. At the same time, both failed to hyphenate common compound adjectives like double spending and file sharing. When we combined these grammatical tics with Satoshi's specific spelling variations, the database filtered down to exactly one individual who matched every single linguistic marker, Adam Back. However, When the person who wrote the blueprint is the same person whose timeline and linguistic fingerprint match perfectly, the evidence becomes difficult to ignore. To test this profile in the real world, a reporter traveled to a Bitcoin conference in El Salvador to confront Adam Back in person. In a hotel room confrontation, the reporter presented the mountain of data, the timelines, the blueprint, and the linguistic matches. Back denied the claim multiple times, attributing the patterns to coincidence. But a potential slip occurred during a discussion about writing habits. The reporter quoted a well-known line from Satoshi Nakamoto, "I'm better with code than with words." Back didn't respond to it as a quote from a third party. He immediately interrupted to defend himself, arguing that for someone who wasn't good with words, he had certainly done a lot of talking on the mailing lists over the years. In that moment, Back appeared to be defending his own personal history rather than discussing Satoshi's. For a few seconds, the discipline required to maintain a 17-year secret seemed to give way to a purely human instinct. If Adam Back is Satoshi, why go through this elaborate effort to hide? The answer likely lies in the history of the cypherpunks. In the early 2000s, Back watched the legal collapse of peer-to-peer services like Napster. He noted that governments were very effective at cutting off the head of any system with a central, identifiable creator. For Bitcoin to be truly decentralized, it needed to be parentless. Anonymity wasn't just a preference. It was a security feature designed to protect the network from being shut down by targeting its inventor. Adam Back may never formally admit to being Satoshi Nakamoto, but the data suggests that while a master of security can mask their location, they cannot fully erase the fingerprints left behind in their own words.